little darling Wendy. Welcome to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. So today I want to do like an extension video of the last video that I made where I talked about what to do when you have a setback. And of course my dog, as always, doesn't listen and has to be involved when I'm doing something for you guys. And today I want to talk about what actually happens when your manifestation completely fails, okay? So let's say your SP is getting married, for example. That's a big one that I get a lot. Or let's say you applied for a job and someone else got the job. You applied to college and you got rejected, right? Those are all situations where normally we would say, okay, you know what? I'll take the L, I'll move on with my life. One of the biggest things that we need to understand is that if you don't know how manifestation really works, there's an infinite amount of realities. And one of the biggest things that I see is people say, you know, oh my God, how can you do this? You're manifesting an SP, you're taking their free will away. But that's not really true. You have to understand that of your SP as well as yourself, there is an infinite amount of realities of you existing and them existing. So all you're doing when you're manifesting is jumping into the timeline where your SP wants you, okay? So there's an infinite amount of versions of them. There's a version that doesn't want you. There's a version that, you know, of them that hates you. There's a version that loves you. There's a version that's already married to you. There's a version that doesn't even know you and that will never know you, okay? All you're doing is attracting that version of them that wants to be with you or wants to be your friend or whatever the case may be. So if you are being rejected from something, right? And there's two ways we can go about this, and I'm going to get a little bit more into it because in the last video I kind of touched on it and people were like, oh, okay, interesting. You have to understand that all that it is you being in that specific timeline where the version of you is still in the loss phase, right? But we all know that time isn't real. Okay, time is an illusion. So there is a reality where a different version of you exists that is either in the past or in the future. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, okay? That already has what you want though. And that version is still accessible to you, regardless of where you are at right now. Because who's to say that the person who got the job over you isn't quitting, or they're getting fired, or they're realizing they, you know, hired the wrong person. It happened to me before with college where I got rejected and then I got accepted after the fact. And this is the thing, like with SPs, I always tell you guys, be careful. Yes, technically, you know, there's a version where they're still married to the person that they're married to, and that's all well and good. I always tell you guys, if you really want to manifest someone who is that deep in a commitment, especially when you know that this is something that is based on your limiting beliefs, you can manifest an SP that is exactly like your SP, but not in a commitment, okay? You can literally have them look the same, talk the same, act the same, maybe even have a better personality than the one you're manifesting right now. And I'm telling you, I promise you, if you fall in love with yourself, you're gonna realize there's nobody in the world that is worth all this trouble. Okay? I mean, when I got divorced, I thought I would never fall in love again. And now I'm like, but now there's this SP where I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself because he's a celebrity, but I'm thinking about it. I'm very seriously thinking about manifesting him just because. But we'll see, because right now I'm very focused on my own goals. But it's nice to have love. It's nice to have somebody in your life, you know? But this person is look-wise very similar to my ex-husband. They're personality-wise very similar to them, but I also know that there's a couple things that they don't have that I wouldn't want them to have. They're much more goal-oriented in certain aspects where I want to be goal-oriented as well. You know, it would be great. We could work together, for example. Those are things that I didn't have before. There will always be somebody else. So even if that particular thing doesn't work out for you, you shouldn't give up manifesting in general, because that's also something that I do see a lot. But if you are so hell-bent on this particular person, you can still make it happen, okay? You can absolutely make it happen. no matter how you want to make it happen. The most important thing is that you don't give up, because your manifestation could literally be right around a corner from you. I don't think that you should be switching techniques that much. I think it's counterproductive to what you're trying to do. I think you should just stick with the one that you have and just amp it up and keep going and don't give up. I've also seen people, I'm like a little bit of a lurker in comment sections just because there's a lot of good questions that you can always find. And I saw some people say, you know, oh, I manifested what I wanted, but then I lost it again. And then I got something else. So it was a complete waste of my time. And they were just all like, we all should give it up. It's crap. That's what I see a lot. A lot of people who criticize it are people who used to try it and either got minimal results or no results at all. And I have to say, like, fairly enough, oftentimes I do see that when you speak to them or kind of hear out their story, they really didn't do the work. And this is a big misconception that the law of attraction brings into manifestation, is that you don't have to do the work. You can just sit on the couch and visualize it and it'll be here. And that's just not how it works. You have to do the work. You have to really go in and grind. And if you don't do it, it won't work for you. And to then dismiss it or become a critic that, and this is why I don't like commentary, you know, places as well. Like, oftentimes they're a very valid critic that then turns into a bully, which is not right, because just let everybody live. It's not really a fair stance to go about it, because it creates a lot of doubt in the people who are still in the process of trying to manifest and maybe are going through a failure and don't really know where to go or what to do. So I want you to take this video maybe as an anchor point if you are ever going through doubt, or if you are having a failure. There is no failure. You can't screw up your manifestation even if it looks like you are. And in the particular case of the person that was manifesting and then got it and then lost it, what they don't understand though is that they were very broad in what they were manifesting, and they did get something else. So they did get their manifestation, right? They just didn't get it in the way that they thought they would, which is what I always talk about. The how is not up to you, but they failed to see that it did work for them in the end. And I do see even critics sometimes that say, oh yeah, but I did manifest this. Like, they have to admit in some way or another that they did manifest some things. So if you see someone who's like overly negative, especially because something failed for them and now they are trying something else, that's not really someone you should take at face value or take as a guide or direction, because at the end of the day, jumping from method to method or, you know, belief system to belief system is not going to work for you. This is, first of all, can we talk about the fact that manifestation is not a belief system? It's not based on pseudoscience unless you find medicine and psychology pseudoscience, right? This is based in classic conditioning. This is based in human behavior. And all you're really doing is training your brain to see the world in a way where the things that you're trying to bring in are being filtered out to you, even though they could be here. I even brought up this example to my mother the other day, and I told her, you know, I was doing a tarot reading for a family member, and I told her that there's someone waiting for this particular person, and they could be, this is someone who's already in their life. And this could be someone who they would, for example, work with and walk past every single day. They don't notice them for whatever reason. And then one day, maybe they notice them and they're like, oh my God, this is the love of my life. They didn't manifest this person per se, like out of thin air. This person was there the whole time, but in their reality, because they didn't see them, right? They didn't notice them and register them. They didn't exist in their reality. So to them, they kind of manifested them out of thin air. But they were there the whole time. We just changed our focus. Try to ground yourself a little bit in that knowledge that all you're doing is working with your brain, right? There's no like crazy woo-woo thing. If you look at it from this perspective, and it's already been proven that we can jump into timelines. I mean, there's some theories about, you know, what happened with the CERN collider, whatever it's called, and things like that, where, you know, basically everybody knows that we can do this and we can jump from timeline to timeline. I think the biggest and easiest example is when someone passes away because they have an accident and then they come back to life. You know what I mean? So they made that decision to come back, and they even talk about, you know, how when they like pass over or whatever and they're talking to ancestors or whoever and they're sending them back. And then their whole life changed, right? Because they jumped into a different timeline. You have to really ground yourself a little bit in the fact that this is really all reality based and not so much like spiritual based necessarily. only because I find, and this might just be me personally, I find that when I lean too much into the spiritual aspect of it, whether I'm a Christian, whether I'm a law of attraction follower, whether I'm a witch practitioner, spirituality to me personally always implies that we either have to rely on an outside force, right? Someone we co-create with, which we kind of do, but you get the point. Or we have to rely fully on ourselves, 100,000%, because God is within us, which I find is a very, very dangerous, slippery slope to slip into spiritual psychosis, okay? Which, again, I've seen this time and time again of critics. Spiritual psychosis is something you can suffer from regardless of which religion you belong to. It's not just New Age, and I'm tired of this narrative being spun because it's used by critics to villainize something that is very valid for a lot of people that changed their life in a very positive way. So I just want to put that out there. Google is free. At the end of the day, I'm just saying that it's valid and it's much more based in reality than you may understand. And if you kind of get a grip on the fact that you do create your reality, but everything you need is already there, and you don't need to rely on magic or spirit to produce it out of thin air. Maybe it makes it a little bit easier for you to understand, well, I just need to change timelines. But if you think about it this way, every time you make a decision, you change a timeline. Every time you have a thought or speak a word, you change timelines. Regardless of how long this video is, I change timelines probably every second that I opened my mouth right now. Every word could put me into a different timeline. Keep that in mind, come from that perspective, and then re-look at the manifestation that failed and really ask yourself, okay, I don't need to produce all of this out of thin air. It is completely realistic. Let's take the example of the college student thing. It's completely realistic that something happened in that person's life where they decided to drop out. And you can send them positive energy. I mean, again, we shouldn't really meddle, but you can meddle in a way where you say, you know what? This person actually applied to different colleges for different degrees, for example, and they got the degree that they wanted, and it wasn't the one that they accepted, which was mine. And because they dropped out due to that reason, I was next in line. So I got the placement. That is completely realistic and completely normal. You don't need to believe in anything higher outside of yourself in order to realize that that's a totally realistic scenario. And I think if you come from it from that perspective, your whole view of manifestation and screwing up manifestation completely changes. We differentiate way too much between manifestation and reality and making it this crazy thing that it really isn't. So don't give up, be persistent, keep going. Remember, the how is not up to you. Don't get too hung up on that, and really sit with yourself and say, do I really want this still? And a lot of times, I know there's people that say, rejection is protection. I do think that if you went so far as to be rejected in some sort, there could potentially be a reason for that. But more often than not, I find that the rejection happens because we didn't have enough time, or we weren't consistent enough, or sometimes the rejection happens because we were meant to learn this lesson to not give up, to test our will and our desire and how much do I really want this? Sometimes our ego tests us and puts us through failure for a reason. I mean, when I think about the amount of businesses that I had that failed, the amount of times I opened a TikTok account and it failed, the amount of times I tried to do YouTube and it failed, and now I'm at a place where I'm not the biggest, creator out there, and I don't ever want to be personally. But I'm at a place where I'm actually really proud, and I can say I like this. I like where I am. And I don't think that I would have been able to appreciate it. I don't think I would have worked as hard as I do now had I not gone through that failure. Had I succeeded the first time around, I probably would be burned out and not even doing this anymore. And I would have been in the lifestyle planner space, which at the end of the day would have benefited nobody. And I'm not saying that it's not beneficial. I love watching lifestyle. I love watching planner, but my path in life was to teach you guys this. And I never would have done that had I succeeded in what I was doing first. even though I manifested the heck out of trying to make it something. So anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked it. Please make sure you like, subscribe, whatever you need to do. Leave me a comment if you have any questions, if you want me to make a video on something specific. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.